Good morning to all the students.
Good morning, sir.
So today we are going to start one new topic, which is from Unit 3 of your syllabus. So the Unit 3 consists of two major topics. One is the operator overloading and the second one is inheritance. So these two topics are very important, and these are the main concepts of the object-oriented programming paradigm. Right. So you should learn everything with respect to a simple code snippet. Right. So as I told that since this is a programming subject, you should be in a position to write or explain the concepts with the help of programs only. Then only the evaluator will get some impression, good impression. It's not about the impression, but you should be confident enough to write programs related to these OOPS concepts, right? And inheritance is somewhat lengthier topic. It is very simple only, but it is somewhat lengthier in size when compared to that of the operator overloading. So in this unit, we are going to discuss this operator overloading as well as the inheritance. Right? So listen carefully and learn these new concepts with programs. If you have any doubts, you straightforward raise the question so that I can answer them. Right? Is it clear?
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So this is the agenda we are going to follow for this third unit. As I told that we have two major topics in this third unit. One is the operator overloading and the second one is the inheritance. Right. So we will see these are the subtopics for this operator overloading. We'll see what this keyword operator is and how we can overload the unary operator and how we can overload the binary operator. We also go for overloading of relational operator also. Right. First of all, we'll start with the introductory concept of discussing what overloading means. Right. And then we'll go through all these concepts: overloading of unary operator, overloading of binary operator, and overloading of relational operator, unary operator, everything we'll see. And finally, we'll also see one important concept, that is overloading of assignment operator. This is very simple topic. And finally, we will end up the topic with discussing the rules for the overloading of operators. Right. After this, what happened, Abhiram?
Presentation is not visible, sir.
Now, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this third unit consists of two major topics: operator overloading and inheritance. We'll start our discussion with what overloading is and what operator overloading is and where we can make use of this operator overloading. Why do we use this operator keyword? And we will see a lot of examples on overloading the unary operator, overloading of relational operator, overloading the binary operator along with the overloading of assignment operator. Everything is very simple topic, but the point is you have to understand the basics of this overloading concept. So we'll end up this session with discussion on the rules for overloading of operators. And then we'll enter into the inheritance, where we'll see different types of inheritance. This is very important topic, right? You get most of the questions from this inheritance regarding these types of inheritance only, right? And after that, we will go through, we have a lot of discussion on these types of inheritance. We'll see one programming example for each and every type of inheritance. Later, we will move our discussion on virtual base classes, which is also a very important topic with respect to theoretical examination point of view. And then we'll see these abstract classes, and then we'll end up this session with the advantages and disadvantages of inheritance. Okay. So this is the agenda we are going to follow. So without any further delay, let us jump into our topic of discussion, today's discussion, that is operator overloading. Can anybody tell me what do you understand by the term overload? Any idea on this overload? It's a general term we make use in the English terminology, right? So what do you understand by the term overload? Please speak
More than
loudly.
enough.
Not more than enough. Yes, okay, something similar. So when we are doing some extra, when we are taking some extra load rather than our routine works, then we will say that we are overloaded, right? In the similar way, operator overloading means we are making the operator to perform additional tasks in addition to that of the original task which it is intended for, right? So for example, if you take an operator called plus, what is this plus used for? It is an arithmetic addition operator, right?
Yes, sir.
What for we make use of this plus?
Yes, sir.
So we make this plus for addition of two integer values. I can write like, and I can also make use of this plus to add the floating point number. Right. So what is this 10 and 12? It is a data type or it is a value that belongs to integer data type. Similarly, the 10.3 and 12.4 are also the values which relate to float. Is it right or not?
Yes, sir.
That means the plus operator or the addition operator we make use of in the programming languages is intended to work on these integer and float. Right. So this integer and float belong to which data type? They belong to built-in data type, or they're also called as fundamental data type. So in general, these operators are built or designed for operations to be performed on the fundamental data types or built-in data types. But for example, when we make these operators, which are intended for operations on built-in data types, to operate on the user-defined data types also, then that concept is called as overloading. Right. So actually, these operators are intended to work with the fundamental data types, but we are making or we are writing some code such that these operators are made to operate in the same way as that of they are used in the built-in data types. So we make these operators to work with the user-defined data types also. So this is called as overloading. Is it clear up to this point? For example, shall I take this? I'll take one string like this, computer, and I'll take one string called science. So I write some code in such a way that if I put a plus symbol in between these two strings, computer and science, so the result will be the concatenation of these two strings, right? So I may get the output as computer science. This is what I need. So I want the plus operator to work on the user defined data types such as strings also. Actually, strings are not the user defined data type, but this is the example we can give, right? But string is neither a fundamental data type. We make use of character arrays to work with the string. So in such case, we are making this operator to work not only with the fundamental data types, but with the other data types such as user-defined data types. So this type of concept is supported only in C++. It's not in C++, it is supported by the object-oriented programming paradigm. So any programming language that make use of this object-oriented programming, they can overload the operators to make those operators work with the user defined data types in the same manner as that of the fundamental data types. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Right. So here we have two concepts, overloading concepts. We have two types of overloading can be performed, right? One is the function overloading and the second one is operator overloading. Overloading means we make, for example, we have seen the definition of operator overloading. We make the operator to work with the user defined data types in the same way as that of the fundamental data type. This is called as operator overloading. Can anybody tell me what do you understand by the term function overloading? Anybody, please tell me what do you mean by function overloading? So overloading will be of two types. One, we can overload the functions, and the second one, we can overload the operator. We have seen, I have explained the concept of operator overloading, and we have the concept of operator overloading in our syllabus. But I am saying that we can also have a concept called as function overloading. Can anybody tell me what do you understand by the term function overloading? Please try
Where
to
two or more functions can be overloaded at the same parameters.
No, you are telling it exactly in the reverse order. Don't worry, but you try to answer. That's it. That's good, right? So function overloading means it's not the concept of two or more functions. Right? We have only one function. Let us say, for example, I take a function called add. Right? I take a function called add. So the single function can be overloaded such that we can make use of this function. Assume that initially I have written this add function with which is intended to add only two integer values. So the how many parameters it should accept? Two parameters, and that they belong to integer data type. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
So this add function is used to add two integer values and return the value. Okay, I'm returning the integer value. So this is one function definition I have given. But later what I have done is I make use of the same function, add function. This time I'm not using the add function to add two integer values. This time I'm making it to use, I'm writing the code in such a way that it will add two floating point numbers and return the float value. Right? So what is the function name here?
Add, sir.
Add, which is similar to the same function name which is used to add two integer values. Right? Now I want to overload it more again. Right? Let us take the same function. Right? I'll ask the conclusion, so you should tell the conclusion at the end. Now I am making it to add three integer values. Now it is not two parameters, it is three parameters, and the return type is again same. Okay, integer. So this is the third implementation I am doing. Let us take another fourth implementation where I take the add function itself. This time I am making this add function to add one integer and one float value, and the return type should be float. Right. So these are all the concepts of function overloading. Right. So the concept is very simple, right? Function overloading means you are going to overload the function. That means you are going to make the function to work differently in different scenarios. Right. So when I call the add function with two integers 10 and 20, which function will be invoked? You tell me the number 1, 2, 3, 4.
1.
So 1 will be invoked. If I pass the values 10 and 12.5, which function will be invoked?
4.
Which function?
4, sir.
4,
sir,
right?
4.
Why? Because the first parameter is integer and the second parameter is float, therefore this will be invoked. Now if I pass 12.5 and 14.6, which function?
2, sir.
2, sir.
If I pass three parameters 10, 20 and 30, during function call I call it as add of 10, 20, 30. So which function will be invoked?
3, sir.
3, right? So based upon the number of parameters that you are going to pass to the function add, it is going to invoke the corresponding function definition, right? So what is the concept you have understood here? For function overloading, the function name should be the same. The function name should be the same, right? And the definitions or the implementations of the functions may vary, right? So single function name, multiple implementation. That is the point you have to remember here. So what is that we have? Single function name with, what is that you are saying?
Different implementations, sir.
With different implementations or multiple implementations. Anything is correct only, right? So this is the actual definition of the function overload. Right. Now tell me, if I am making use of the function overloading concept, how can you overload the function? That means if we have a function with the same name and same parameter list, can we call it as function overloading? So I have the same function as add and I am accepting only 2 integers. Can it be called as function overloading?
No, sir.
No, actually the compiler itself will not accept such type of definitions. Right? Why? Because no two functions in the same program will have the same name. This is the rule it is following by default. Right? So whenever you are making use of the function overloading concept, you should remember carefully that either the number of parameters should vary. What is the first point? It should vary in the number of parameters. So one function definition may accept 2 integers values. Another function may accept with the same name may accept 3 integers, 4 integers, like that. So the number of parameters may vary. Similarly, the type of parameters may also vary. The type of parameters should also vary. That means, for example, you take the first and second definition. So in the first definition, I am using the add to add 2 integers, and the second definition, I am making use of add to add 2 floating point numbers. Similarly, you go for the fourth one. It is used, the add function is used to add 1 integer and 1 float, right? So the type of parameters and the order of parameters may also vary. So when we implement the functions with different definitions, such that either the number of parameters may vary in the function definitions, or the type of parameters may vary, or the order of parameters may vary. Order means, for example, in this function, I have the integer as the first parameter and float as the second parameter. I take another fifth definition such that it is going to add float comma int, right? So this the order of parameters may vary, or the type of parameters may vary, and the number of parameters may also vary. So if you follow these rules and you write multiple definitions for the same function, then that concept will ultimately lead to the function overload. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Right. So
Yes, sir.
if somebody asks you a simple question, please tell me what actually is function overloading. Can you give an answer in a single word, a single statement?
Same function, different implementations with the different parameters, sir.
Super. Right. Super, Amma. So a single function with a function name with multiple implementations is a single statement definition, and you can add with different parameters or number of parameters. Everything is same, right? So, but a simple definition is we make use of a single function name, and we will implement with multiple implementations will be there for the same function name. That is called as the function overload. Right. Now, are you clear about what overloading concept is?
So,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please tell me.
sir, is this similar to polymorphism?
Yeah, overloading is a concept which is supported. No. Reverse. Polymorphism is supported by overload. Right. Polymorphism. We have a wonderful object-oriented concept called as polymorphism. Did you remember that concept? Did you remember that concept, polymorphism? We have discussed
Yes,
today while
sir.
discussing the
Yes,
first
sir.
Right. What do you mean by polymorphism?
One unit that can be implemented in various ways.
Right. Polymorphism. The name itself is saying that poly means many, morphing means many types, right? So many types is nothing but the polymorphism. So polymorphism is implemented through which mechanism in C++? This might be the question you might be asked, right? Did you understand the concept, Vaishnavi? I think you are the person who asked the question, right? So polymorphism is a concept which is related to object-oriented programming, which says that multiple or many types, many forms is called as polymorphism. A simple conversion of polymorphism is many forms, right? So if somebody asks you, how do you implement polymorphism in C++ or by using the object-oriented programming means, you can simply say that the polymorphism is implemented through overloading concept. Simple. Right. And we know how many types of overloading are there. It is the function overloading, and the second one is the operator overloading. Right. So it's a good question you have asked. That polymorphism is nothing but we are going to implement the polymorphism using the overloading concept, where we have two types of overloading. One is the function and another one is the operator overload. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So,
Right. But I don't know why the function overloading concept has not been introduced in our syllabus. So if time permits, we will also go with few examples of this function overloading also. Right now I have explained the concept of function overloading. You know what function overloading is. But we have to discuss some important points regarding that function overloading, and we will try to implement the function overloading. Is it clear up to this point?
Okay, sir.
yes, sir.
So now we'll move into the original topic, that is the operator overloading. So an operator overloading is a very important concept in C++, where we are going to implement the polymorphism using the operator overloading. Okay. So operator overloading is an important concept in C++. So in C++, we make operators to work with the user-defined data types, which are nothing but the classes. Do you remember the term that I call the classes as user-defined data type? Does the classes come under
Yes, sir.
user-defined data type or not?
Yes, sir.
Super, right. So classes. So we make the operators to work with the classes. This is very important. So we make the operators to work with the user-defined data types, which are nothing but the classes in the C++. So this is called as operator overloading. So this means that C++ has the ability to provide the operators with a special meaning for a data type. This ability is known as operator overload. Right. It's not mandatory that you write exactly what I am saying, right? You understand the concept and you try to give your own answer. So we are making the we are providing the operators with a special meaning for a data type such that we make them to work with the user defined data types in addition to work with the fundamental data types. So very important point. I think Vaishnav, your doubt will be cleared in this point. So it is polymorphism in which an operator is overloaded to give the user defined meaning to it. Right? There is nothing to do with this 10 plus 12. Why? Because the plus is already intended to work with the fundamental data types that are integers. 10 and 12 will work perfectly. Right? But when we want to make this plus operator to work with the user defined data types, for example, I have an object 1 and another object O1 and O2. If I make this O1 plus O2 and I have to write a special code for this plus. So this plus the special code which we are going to write for this plus and thereby we are making it to work with these objects, that is called as operator overloading, which is a concept supported for implementation of polymorphism. Right. And the next point is overloaded operator is used to perform operation on user defined data types. Right. So you never remember, this point is very important. So if somebody says you that it is if somebody says you it is an operator overloading, that means we are writing some code to implement or to make the operator to work with the user defined data types. So you never write a code to work with the fundamental data types. Why? Because the operation of the operator for the fundamental data types is already predefined. So what you will write, what extra code you will write to make the operator to work with the fundamental data? Nothing to do with the fundamental data, right? So whenever somebody says that it is operator overloading, then the point that should strike your mind is that you are going to write a code, a special code, an additional code for the operator such that it is going to work with the user defined data type, right? So operator overloading works only with the user defined data types only. We cannot say that operator is overloaded when you are making the operator to work with the fundamental data. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
So, for an example, as I told that in the example itself, we take plus operator and we can overload it to perform the addition of various fundamental data types like integer, but it also can be used to add two strings, which we call it as concatenation, string concatenation, right? This is a simple example to understand the concept of operator overloading, right? But we have so many concepts to understand other than this string concatenation. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So we have so many operators that are available in the C++. Whatever operators that are available in C, they are also available in the C++. In addition to that, we have some additional operators also. Can you tell me any additional operator that we have used till now? Anybody?
Scope operator, tilde operator,
What is that one?
scope operator,
Scope resolution. We call it as scope resolution operator. Super. What is your name?
Sohail, sir.
Sohail, right? So scope resolution operator is a new operator that we come across in the C++, but we won't find this operator in the C programming. Right? Like that, we have some additional operators. Right? We have some additional operators in C++, but remember that the operator overloading concept can be applied to most of the operators except for 5 operators. Right. This is a very important what do we say, Viva question. Viva question. So if you have gone through the OOPS lab, so somebody will come and external examiner will come and he will ask you, so can you please list out the operators that cannot be overloaded, right? So almost all the operators in C++ can be overloaded except only 5 operators that those are. First one is dot operator. Can anybody tell me what is this dot operator? We have seen this dot operator.
Essential in creating an object.
No. This is not essential in creating the object. It is essential in what is that one?
Accessing members of the class.
Proper, right. Can I call this as member access operator? Since this operator is being used to access the members of the structure or class, this operator is called as member access operator. So dot operator cannot be overloaded, right? So let us write like this. First one, what is this one? I call this as member access operator. And we have another operator called arrow. Where do we use this arrow? Where do we use this arrow? So this is also called as a member access operator only, where we make use of this arrow to access the members of the structure, but the structure variable is not a normal variable. It is a pointer to the structure. So when we have the pointers to structures and we want to access the members of the structures using pointer to structure, then we will make use of this arrow operator. So these two operators are called as member access operator. And the third operator that cannot be overloaded is size of. Have you ever heard of this term size of in C?
Yes, sir.
What for it is used? Anybody please tell me what is the use of size of? The name itself is saying. Huh?
Size of data type, sir.
Super. It will give the size of data types in number of bytes. That is important. It will give it in number of bytes. So if I write size of int like this, size of int, so it will return a value called 4, where this 4 integer represents that the integer is going to take 4 bytes. So it is going to return the number of bytes that the data type accepts. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And another operator that cannot be overloaded is scope resolution operator. Scope resolution operator cannot be overloaded. Right. And we have one more operator that I forgot. Ternary operator. Right. Ternary means we have the concept like this. Right. Conditional operator. We can also call it as conditional operator. Is it right or not? So these are the 5 operators that cannot be overloaded. It's a very important question. What are those 5 operators? One is the scope resolution operator, second one is the size of operator, ternary operator, and 2 member access operators, which are nothing but dot and arrow. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
So operator overloading is a technique. It's an important technique that is used to enhance the power of extendability. What do you mean by extendability? Extendability.
Increasing
Are you
its
there?
uses.
What do you mean by extendability?
Increasing its uses.
Increasing its uses. Right. So we are going to increase the, we can say it as range, right? So whatever we have will be in the limited manner, and when we add these type of concepts, then we say that we are going to extend it. For example, inheritance is also another concept that is used to extend the features of C++, right? Similarly, the operator overloading is a technique that is used to enhance the power of extendability of C++. Right? And this is what I have been telling you in from the first point onwards, that C++ tries to make the user defined data types behave in the same way as that of the built-in data type. So when we make the user defined data types to work in the same way as that of the built-in data types, we can make use of this operator overloading call. So it is a type of polymorphism in which an operator is overloaded to give the user defined meaning of it. This is what we have discussed it already. So very important part. What is the difference between the operator functions? As I told that whenever you want to implement the operator overloading concept, you have to write some extra code, some additional code to that operator. Right. So that extra code can be implemented either as the member function of the class or the non-member function of the class, or there is another concept called as friend function. Right. We'll see these concepts also. Friend function also we'll discuss, and we'll discuss it with one example also. So when I write the code for these examples, please try to concentrate. Right. So is it clear? Right. So whenever you want to implement operator overloading, it is very important that you have to write a function for that one. That means you have to implement a code. So whenever we say a set of instructions, it is nothing but a function. So when you write a function, there are three ways where we can write these functions or the functions for this operator overload. Either you can write the function as the member function of the class, or you can write it as a separate function which is not a member function, or you can write it as a friend function. We'll see what friend functions are. So in this particular slide, we are going to discuss how these operator functions, let us call that as operator functions, how they are going to be different from the normal functions. They're almost 99% similar, right? But in order to differentiate the normal functions and the operator functions, there are some differences that we will discuss. Right? So operator functions are same as that of the normal functions. That is what I have told, right? The only difference is instead of name, normal functions, what is the function syntax will follow? Return type,
Function name, then parameters.
function name and argument list, and then we'll write some code related to this function. Is it right or not? So these operator functions are also similar. They have the return type, they have the argument list, and as I told that they have the instructions to perform the operator work. But other than this, instead of function name, the operator function will always start with a keyword called operator. So what, if anybody asks you what is this operator, what do you say? It is nothing but
Keyword, sir.
a keyword, right? And this keyword should be followed or should be succeeded with an operator which you are going to overload. So if I am going to overload the plus operator, I should write it as operator plus. Either you can combine these without any spaces, or you can give the spaces also. Nothing wrong. Right. So somebody will write like this: operator plus. This is also correct, and this is also correct. Nothing wrong. Is it clear? So instead of function name, we are going to make use of the operator keyword followed by the operator which we are going to overload. For example, if I want to overload star, how can I do? I have to use the keyword operator, and then it is followed by star. Right. So the name of the operator function is always operator keyword followed by the symbol of operator. This is the important difference. You should keep it in mind while discussing the differences between the operator functions and normal. And other than that, we have one more difference, which is operator functions are called when the corresponding operator is used. This is very important. Right? How can I call a function? For example, I have a function called add int, comma int. So if I want to call this function, I will write one statement as add of 10, 20. So by looking at the name of the function, the corresponding function definition will be invoked. Right. But how
Yes,
can this
sir.
operator function is invoked means when you are overloading an operator. Example, I have overloaded function here. So if I use somewhere else like this, O1 comma O1 plus O2, then this plus is being operated on the user defined data types, which is O1 and O2, which are nothing but objects, which are nothing but classes. So those are nothing but user defined data types. So in such case, that operator function will be invoked. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Only two differences. The first one is instead of function name, you have to use operator keyword followed by the operator which we are going to overload. The second one is it is going to be invoked when we use the operator symbol with the user defined data types only. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Clear, sir.
Right. On this point, we have already discussed that almost any operator can be overloaded in C++. Right. However, there are few operators which cannot be overloaded. The operators that cannot be overloaded are scope resolution operator, the size of operator, member selection operator. This is also a member selection operator only, but we are making use of pointers. This is not start. Sorry. This arrow. So this is a member point selector operator, and then we have a ternary operator, right? So these five operators cannot be overloaded. That is the important point we should remember. So as I told that the syntax of the operator overloading is, what is the syntax? Every function will have the return type followed by
class name, class
no.
operator, operator,
We'll see this one later, right? Operator, and then
and
we have symbol, and then we have argument list,
argument.
and then we have this function definition. Right? This is the normal operator function. Right? But if this operator function is declared as a member function of the class, and when we are defining, how many ways we can define the member functions? How many ways we can define the member function?
Two ways, sir.
Super. Two ways. What are those two ways? Right. We can give the definition of the member function inside the class or outside the class. Right. So the two ways are, one thing we can define it inside the class, and the second one is you can define outside the class. So if you define the operator function inside the class, you can write it like this. But if you define the operator function outside the class, this is the syntax, but we should add to which class it belongs. So that should be done by making use of the class name followed by the scope resolution operator. Other than this, everything is similar. So we have return type, we have operator symbol, keyword, okay. We have the symbol, which is nothing but the operator symbol. We have this argument list, okay, and we have this function body. Right? Everything is similar, but when we define the operator function outside the class, we should say to which class this operator function belongs to. So we should mention to which class it belongs. Therefore, that is done by making use of the scope resolution operator as well as the class. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So by looking at an example, it will be cleared, right? I think you are not going to the concept. It's a very simple question I asked. In how many ways we can define the member function? Two, but what are those two ways? One is you can define the function inside the class, and another one is you can define the function outside the class. Okay. So please revise the previous topics so that you can get the clear idea. Right? Right. This is what I am telling you. Right. How do you implement the operator overloading? Means by making use of one function called as operator function. That we are clear. But where we can implement these functions? Right. We can implement the operator function either as the member function of the class or the non-member function of the class, or by using a friend function. Right. The member function means you can define the definition inside the class, or you can define the function outside the class. Right. So these are the three ways of implementing the operator function. One is by using the member function, second one is non-member function, or you can implement it by using the friend function. And last 2 minutes, please concentrate on this particular line, these three nodes. So if the operator overloading function is implemented using the member function, this is very important. If you implement the operator overloading or operator function as the member function of a class, then the left operand is an object of that class. This we will see. This we will see with an example. Right. So the left operand, for example, plus O1 plus O2. If I say like this, it will be treated as, I'll tell you all these things in the programming point of view. Right now you cannot understand this one. So when you implement the operator function as the member function, then the left operand is an object of that class. It belongs to the same class. Right? We'll see. So if the left operand is different, then the operator overloading function must be a non-member function. So if we implement the operator function as the non-member function, then the left operand is not the object of that class. It is something different, right? That we'll see. Similarly, the same case with the operator overloading implementation with the friend function also. So if the operator overloading function can be made friend function if it needs to access the private and protected members of the class. We'll see what this friend function and all these things. But one important point you have to remember here is when you implement the operator function as the member function of the class, then the left operand is the object of the same class. That is what you have to remember. And if you are implementing the operator function as a non-member function of a class, then the left operand is something different. It is not the object of the same class. All these things we will see with examples, but you try to remember these simple points. If it is a member function, the left operand is the object of that class. If it is a non-member function, the left operand is something different than that of the something different, right? It is not the object of the same. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
The last last point regarding the introductory part to operator overloading. So we have some restrictions on overloading. Right. What are those restrictions? When we implement the operator overloading concept means the first one is the precedence and associativity of an operator cannot be changed, right? So for example, star and plus, which one is having highest precedence?
Star, sir.
Star is having the highest precedence. So if you overload these operators, the precedence will not change. So when we have an concept like this, O1 star O2 plus O3. These are three different objects. So star and plus have been overloaded. And if I implement an expression like this, so which one will be evaluated first? Is it O1 star O2 or O2 plus O3?
O1 star O2, sir.
O1 star O2. Why? Because the star is having the highest precedence than the plus. So the prioritized operator should be evaluated first. First star will be evaluated. So even though you overload the operators, the precedence and associative will not change. The priority of the operators will not change. And associativity means when we have two different operators of the same class, for example, O1 star O2 by O3. How many operators are there in this expression?
Two, sir.
2. What are those?
Star and by.
Star and division. So what about the precedence of star and division, which is having highest priority?
Division.
No. Both the operators are having the equal precedence.
Left to right.
Star and division are having
Yes, sir. Left to
right. Whenever you have the equal precedence, you never go for the associativity concept initially. Associativity comes into existence whenever we have the equal priority operators. Right. So here star and division are having the equal priority. Therefore, we will go for the associativity concept. According to the associativity of star and division, they are left to right associative. Therefore, so you scan the expression from the left hand side. Whichever operator comes first, that should be evaluated first. Right? Therefore, O1 star O2 is evaluated, and for that result, we will divide it with O3. So this is how the associativity is defined. Right. So when you overload the operator, their precedence and associativity is not going to change. It remains as it is. Right? We are just going to give a new definition or new implementation for the operator such that the operator will work with the user-defined data type. This is what we are going to do. Nothing to do with the precedence and associativity. Is it clear?
yes, sir.
And the second point is arity cannot be changed. Arity means number of operands. Right? What is plus plus plus? Plus plus, is it unary or binary?
Unary, sir.
Unary operator, right? Why? Because unary operators are the operators which operate on single operand. Therefore, I write like this: a plus plus or plus plus a. So they are going to operate on single operand. Therefore, these are called as unary operators. And plus, it can be used as a binary operator. It requires two operands, a plus b, c star d, like this. All these are binary operators. So when you overload the operators, the arity or the number of operands that the operator operates on will not change. Right? So plus 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 still works on the unary objects only or single object only, and plus star and all the binary operators need two different user-defined data types. Right? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
And this is very important. The third point. Right? So you can make use of the existing operators only. Existing operators can be overloaded. You cannot create a new operator. For example, I don't have this dollar operator. Assume that. So you cannot create a overloading function for this dollar. Why? Because this operator does not exist in the C++. So operator overloading is a concept which should be applied to only the existing operator, not for the new operator. Right? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So and the last point is we cannot redefine the meaning of a procedure. That is, we cannot change how integers are added. Right? So we are going to write a new code for the operators to be operated with the user-defined data types. You cannot change the original procedure. That means you cannot change the way in which the plus is being operated on the integer value. Right? So these are the restrictions we have. One is you cannot change the precedence and associativity of the operators. Second one is you cannot change the arity. Arity means the number of operators on operands on which the operator is going to operate. You cannot change it. And the third point is you cannot create the new operators, or you cannot overload the new operators. Only existing operators can be overloaded. And finally, you cannot redefine the meaning of the existing procedure. So these are the restrictions we have. So this is the end of today's session. In tomorrow's class, we will start with the programming concept of overloading arithmetic operators. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.